Hi, what's up, you guys? Welcome to my channel. Today we are diving back in to Nashville, not season one. You can go find my season one video probably in this playlist, or I'll try to link it below. We'll see how it all goes. I'm terrible at optimizing my YouTube, but hey, I'm still monetized, so I make money on this view. But if you want to give me more money, you can donate. Tax exempt free, baby. Or you can subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe, buy my merch. You got a lot of options. All for you, baby. All for you. You might be saying, wow, this is like really weird. Like, why isn't this just clips of Nashville? And that is because you have to legally monetize it and as a producer. And so I don't want to do that. And I'm still an artiste at heart. So I have made kind of like vlogs of my life, and I put them in because they reminded me somewhat of the show. So that's what you're seeing here. But without further ado, let's get into it. So we start, it with a flashback. We love a good flashback. Basically, just about Deacon buying Raina a house. Obviously, the end of season one ended with them in this terrible car crash. Truly horrific. So bad that Raina is in a coma and her brain is swollen. Great, you know what I mean? Like, it's going so well. It's just, not the best way, not the way I thought these lovebirds were gonna get together. So Deacon is in jail for driving, though he wasn't driving, and Scarlett is trying to bail him out because Juliet just can't, because I think she's dealing with the death of her mother. There was a lot of violence in that last season. Teddy obviously wants Deacon to pay because they've had, a pissing contest over Raina. And Deacon's bail is at $1 million. I get he's a country music star, but dang, and Deacon is, like, ready to plead guilty right away. And he's, like, the judge is like, listen, like, if your charges are going to be upgraded to involuntary manslaughter if Raina dies, like, you may not want to have that happen. And Juliet is super upset because all of the Raina stuff is going to stale from her album release, which is so Juliet of her, So she's looking for a new personal assistant. She's just dealing with her own rock star life. Teddy doesn't want to deal with Peggy being pregnant. He's going to pay for that, but more on that later. And Scarlett turned down Old Gunner's proposal. Shot me right through the heart. Because she really wants to learn how to stand on her own. Juliet says, like, oh, I'm going to just do this big concert for Raina, but it's really for her own album. Deacon is like, I was drunk, even when I had proposed to her, I don't really have no memory. And Scarlett is like, I don't know, I think this is, like, more than just drinking. Maddie is, like, blaming herself for snooping with her mom and, like, trying to find out all these details. And Juliet is starting to become a friend to Raina's children. I love how tan Raina is in this, being so sick in the hospital. I guess she was tan beforehand, and maybe it hasn't been that much time, but it makes me laugh. Peggy unfortunately miscarries, but leaves Teddy to believe that she's still pregnant. After listening to Raina's music and kind of recalling how Juliet and her mom would, like, listen to those songs together, she decides to bail Deacon out of jail. And then Tandy is approached by someone from the Justice Department, and he's like, listen, I think your dad had something to do with your mom's death. I don't think that her car accident was an accident. And Raina is out of her coma, but it's kind of unclear if her cognitive skills are going to be in the best shape. And she's like, do you recognize your worried family? She nods. And she's like, listen, Deacon wasn't driving the night of the crash, I was. So he's released from jail. And she tells her dad that she is like, I want to move forward. Like, I don't want to be angry at you. Like, having just lost my life almost, things are more important. And Lamar, of course, is like, oh yeah, like, it's best if the past just stays in the past. So now we get our big bad for the next couple of seasons, old Jeff Fordham. He is just like kind of like an evil Matt Bomber, you know what I mean? Or Boomer, rather. I always want to say Bomber. I don't know why. War on the brain, you know? So he's taken over whatever their record company is called. It's escaping me now. It'll come up. Edge Hill or something. So, and he obviously tries to poach Will, of course. Similar toxic energy. And there is a gay lover from Will's past who is the PR guy who promises to keep Will's secrets. Teddy is also going to stay at home until Raina is kind of 100% being herself. And then Juliet is guest starring on Conan O'Brien. Which, like, go her. That's a big one. I would love to star in Conan O'Brien. I don't even think he's around anymore on a late night show. I have no idea who is even in late night shows anymore. I'm rough. I always love, like, a real world crossover like this, because it's so silly, because there's so many facts that are not real, but yeah. And Juliet is going to decide to, like, just kind of go back to where she came from. She's an Alabamian. And Jeff Ford is not impressed with Juliet because her album isn't doing well. And she's like, and that's also part of the reason she goes to Alabama, because she goes where she lived with her kid. And a camera crew kind of just, like, captures all of her heartfelt memories. You know, that'll be, like, kind of, like, a good PR thing and, like, make her feel more human and get people to kind of bond with her because they're getting personal. And then Avery is kind of noticing that she gets upset when she's given a handmade quilt. And she mentions her dad during the interview, who unfortunately passed away when she was 4. Like, she has had no help. But Alabama is beautiful. Alabama I have been to. Like I said, I hope to, in the midst of these reviews, like, there's 7 of Nashville, so I still have time, and obviously there's a lot of space between that one as I do other movie reviews and other projects. But I haven't been to Nashville yet, but I'm getting closer. Things are coming. I'm gonna go by the end of one of these seasons, so I am excited to see if it ends up being what I thought it would be. So that's all happening with Juliet. Man, Alabama is so pretty. I thought it would not be so pretty, but it's Arkansas that smells like chicken shit, right? And I always get those two confused. Anyway, so Scarlett is gonna go live with Deacon, but tells Raina, like, that's not gonna be an issue. Like, I'm still gonna sign with you. And she really is trying to, like, get his uncle to be a good person. But he is just struggling because now, on top of just his addiction and just, you know, nasty personality, his hand is damaged, and it's not great, but there is some hope. He has to go through a lot of painful physical therapy, but he could make a full recovery. And he's just like, you know what, no, my playing days are behind him. Like, I should just sell all my guitars. And he is like, the reason I, like, kind of fell off the wagon, started drinking, and, like, now my hand is damaged because my actions, is because he found out that Maddie was his daughter. And so a memorial has been set up where their car crash was, and that's where Raina meets Deacon. Like, why would we go? That seems so morbid, but all right, y'all. And Deacon is like, you know, you've always been my go-to person, And Raina's like, listen, we didn't die at this spot, but we could have, but we should maybe both move on. And she hands him the ring, and she says, you know, I always thought I might need this someday, but it's not the case. So now Deacon kind of leaves it at the memorial, and Raina is like, hey, Teddy, we can't continue sharing the house. And Daphne is really upset, and Maddie's like, yeah, it's just going to be us against the world now. And so Zoe, Scarlett's friend, is like helping Gunnar get over the case of his writer's block by encouraging him to sing about heartbreak. I think she's also a preacher's daughter, and the tunes that he cranks out is all about his brother. Will is like really impressed with everything Gunnar is doing, and he's like, you know, I'm not a songwriter, I'm a performer. And then Will is like showing up to Jeff's and is like going to sign with him, of course. And Marina is sad, but Juliet is ecstatic because her song is number 1 on iTunes, and she's like, I know Jeff is going to be so impressed. And then Jeff makes her meet Lila Grant, who I freaking love. Aubrey Peebles, I don't know if she's ever done anything else after this, but I loved her, and they cut her too short, and she's one of my favorite characters. I really, really liked her songs. And I love her. I don't know, I'm obsessed with her. I don't know what else to say. I don't know. And Scarlett is like, Deacon, you got to get together. Like, you are just being so self-pity about this hand. And he saws off his cast and just starts to play guitar, and he's painful, but he's trying. And Raina is like, I don't even know if I belong at the label I built. Like, I'm kind of thinking about change. Everything has been so topsy-turvy with, you know, her life, and she's like pretty much starting over, like no man really behind her at this point, because she's a solo gal, you know, single girl, with 2 parents, or a mom to 2 rather. And we'll see. I always wanted to be with Deacon, even though Deacon is 100%, you know, got problems, but you know, what can we do? But yeah, Deacon is really struggling with his hand because he doesn't have this full range of motion, and obviously, like, as a guitar player, that is really sad. Just, you know, I feel bad for any musician like that who can't do it, or like any athlete. Like, that's just horrible, you know, like really, really hard and sad. And he is still dealing with throwing away like 13 years of sobriety, which my boyfriend and I talk a lot about Alcohol Anonymous and how, like, it really sucks that it's like you feel like more of a piece of shit when you have one slip up, even though, like, some people have a regular relationship with alcohol where they, like, drink once and then don't drink for a while, and it's not the end of the world. But, like, that AA kind of keeps that mindset that I think is dangerous. Like, I think, obviously, like, you don't want to slip up and have a terrible thing, but, like, I don't know if beating yourself up for slipping into recovery is also, or slipping out of recovery is helpful towards your recovery. You know what I'm saying? So, Layla also used to be a reality TV star. She's so cute, and I love her. I just love her so much. I don't even know what to say, you know? So Juliet has a gig that Avery is also a part of. He's like tuning the host guitar that once belonged to Hank Williams, who I love as a country artist. And he gets kind of mad though, because he overhears Juliet telling him that he's nothing more than an employee, and obviously, as we know, Avery has the hots for her, and I do end up shipping them together, even though poor Scarlett never asked for, I guess she's just like her own woman, In my heart of hearts, her and Layla would have hooked up, but it just they were not there yet. It was cable television. So Raina wants to get out of Edge Hill contract. She's like playing nice with Jeff, but she wants Scarlett to be the Highway 65 artist. Like the label couldn't back her entirely, give her a sky list. Will's also getting a makeover, and they're bringing a guest. And Scarlett invites Zoe, and then Will invites Gunnar to kind of have them kindle their little relationship that I don't ship because I really want him and Scarlett to be together, but it's over, and I just have to keep going. But I hate it because that's my one of my other ships. You know what I mean? It's Scarlett or Layla, or Scarlett or Gunnar for me. So Raina technically owes Edge Hill one more record, but she needs help from Liam. And he's just not interested until she apologizes. And Jeff is excited the album is coming. He's like, hey, sing a song at the showcase. And then Raina kind of opens up to Liam and is like, I can't sing because I've got damage to my vocal cords from the accident, and I need to just rethink my exit strategy. And they end up hooking up, but she's also rethinking that, time to be, and it's about the independent girlies this season. Deacon is in recovery. He's attending AA meetings, hasn't had a drink since the accident. But unfortunately he is struggling hard because he wakes up screaming after rolling onto his injured hand. Coleman, his kind of sober coach, is also kind of drops a bomb that he's leaving Nashville. I guess maybe doing other things, or the writers were I don't know what to do with this character, so we let him go. And he's like, Deacon, you need to deal with the issues about your own father before you're one to Maddie, which is also kind of a little too late because he is going to have to be a father to Maddie. He is right now. She is going to want to get to know him, and that whether he is prepared to be a father or not, he is one, and you have to do the best that you can. But Teddy is also adding to the pressure because he's like, listen, Maddie's going to watch your every move from here on now. And we got Layla Grant singing. I love her voice. I love it so much. Then Will sings, and he sings a song that was by Gunnar, and Zoe's super into it as she longingly stares at Will, but she leaves the show with Gunnar. And Raina brings up Scarlett to perform, and that makes Jeff so upset, and he's he thinks that Raina's stunt is payback for Will jumping. And then Deacon is I can't deal with this pain in my hand. I just need help. And he opens up and tells this serious story about his dad throwing a casserole in his mother's face. Then his dad beat up his sister and broke his own nose, and also told him that he was going to be just like him. And he's like, you know what? I am a drunk like him, but at least I'll never hurt a child. And Coleman says that he's proud of him. But man, that story was super dark. Super dark. And he just kind of unleashed that. And I guess that's what AA is, and that's kind of the beauty of the no judgment free zone. But that is also why I personally have a really hard time with group therapy, because it's just these really, really deep traumas that you just kind of have to get dived in there and think about that and really understand people. And it's hard to hear people hurting in that way. So Raina and Teddy finalize their divorce. It's tough, but they both at least want each other to be happy, which is pretty civilized. Peggy's still continuing to act like she's pregnant, and she wants to keep Teddy close. He originally didn't want anything to do with them, but now he's like, you know what, we had a good thing at one time. And Peggy's like, oh no, we can have it again. And then Avery, meanwhile, is confronting Juliet, and they kind of have a blowout. And Juliet's like, I don't want to hear about how I never let anyone in. That would call me, that would cause me to let someone in, and I don't want to do that. So she fires Avery, and it says, it just proves that what she said was true. She's an honest gal. Like, he was really just hired help. And then Charlie, who is like the person that she had worked for earlier in the episode, makes a move on her, and it's like also like, of course he did, because it was so evident in the way that he was like, just like being like, oh, I want to sit by her, just like creepy dude stuff. And then Avery just kind of labels her as being just like emotionally unavailable. And Charlie loves that, because he's like, I'm as unavailable as it gets, because he's a wife. And then, of course, they hook up, because she was due for a toxic decision, right? That's just Juliet. It's also wild. I read that I didn't know earlier, but I guess poor Hayden was like struggling with drugs and stuff at this time, that's hard, but yeah, also Charles is like British, so I guess, can't super fault Juliet in that situation. But yeah. Then Deacon is also kind of having this moment with his lawyer. He tries to give his lawyer money, but she won't accept it. But she's just like, buy me dinner. Must be hard being an attractive drunk. You know what I mean? I'm always like, I don't know how I felt about them having a civil divorce, Raina and Teddy, because I'm like, we'll see. I feel like Teddy, he is basically like a Kennedy, I feel like. And I feel like there's always like some drama that's going to happen. And Raina, for her last album, she wants to produce it. And the producer is like, okay, we can delay, because I love sticking it to the man, which I love. And Peggy also has the grandmother's ring, which traumatizes Maddie, because I think that was supposed to be hers. So, things, it's not all great in old Nashville right now, but maybe one day it will get there, maybe one day. So they go to the grave of their grandmother. They never really knew about her. And she's like, here, you guys can come be my date at the sympathy gala. Lamar always throws it every year in remembrance of his late wife, which is super weird if he murdered her, but absolutely the kind of thing I would think a murderer would do. It's really elegant, but Maddie does not want to attend. Lamar claimed that he was in Louisville the night that his mom died, but he was seen in Nashville that evening, and Tandy questions him directly, and he's clearly like very uncomfortable about the subject. Teddy wants to keep the engagement between Peggy, that's how she got the grandmother's ring, quiet, but Maddie doesn't miss a thing. She notices it, and she gets really mad, and Raina gets absolutely mad too when she knows that Peggy is pregnant, and Maddie runs away with Juliet, I believe, who they are honestly very similar in terms of like character coaching. And then Juliet gets this brand new car because she's having an affair with Charles, who literally like hired her to put on a concert for his wife. And Raina is like, hey, I'm gonna have to unfortunately cancel our tour, like I have to be at home, like my kid just ran away. And Juliet is super mad, and she doesn't want to open for like Luke Wheeler, and she's like just upset, but she gets a call from Maddie, and so she goes to her. Deacon's Royler. Oh my god, who am I? I'm so tired. It's like 10 o'clock when I'm doing this, and I'm so jet lagged right now. So sorry if this review is humbling. We'll put it that way. But anyway, so she takes on court-appointed cases because she's trying to let go of the hate that she once felt for the 17-year-old who killed and shot her husband. And so it's kind of like her way of like working through that. And that gets Deacon all hot and bothered, apparently. I don't know. He's a weird dude. But it gets interrupted because Raina comes in looking for Maddie. And Juliet is like, listen, she wants to know about your past. Like, she wants to connect. She wants to get closer to you. Like, she's rebelling in that way. And she's like, that's, I know, because I'm like that. And meanwhile, Scarlett is feeling like super awkward posing. Will and Leia are naturals. They're so good. They're amazing. Will like apologizes to Gunnar that he did a song without permission, but he's like, hey, can I record it for Edge Hill? Scarlett is deciding to loosen up a bit, and she's like, okay, I just have to embrace the celebrity status because a fan asked her for an autograph, and she tries to have a little more fun, and she drags Zoe up on stage, and they're amazing. Avery is really impressed with Gunnar's song. He's like, I think it's really a big hit, and that person will be Will if he does it. And Gunnar is like, no, I'm going to keep it for myself. But Will is really upset because he's like, thinks that Gunnar is jealous. And he's like, no, this is just like, I want it for me, And Juliet invites Layla to be the opening act of her tour. Amazing. Kiss already, you know what I'm saying? And then she sends back the car that Charles gave her. And Tandy turns over this flash drive of all the illegal activities her dad has done, and she is doing it because she thinks that he killed her mom, and he's like, he's never going to pay for that, so he has to be punished for what he did. And Raina shares a story with Maddie about the song. Deacon wrote it for her, and they connect, and she also connects with Deacon, and she calls him Dad, and she and her sister sing one of Deacon's song, and she tries to sing too, but unfortunately from the accident, she still can't sing, and it's really honestly a movie moment, probably one of my favorites from the season. I think I like this season better than season 1. I like that, we kind of learn about kind of the sluttiness and spiciness. We're getting a little bit better. Avery and Gunnar kind of form a band, which is interesting. And they are very mean to Scarlett that she doesn't take charge, and I don't think we're building up to a mental breakdown for Scarlett, but it doesn't necessarily feel super own. But yeah, we'll get to there. We'll figure it all out, But I mean, it like makes sense because it's like she's Deacon's niece, right? So there's clearly mental illness in her family. We've like had hints of Scarlett's mother not being amazing, but it's just, I don't know. It's a bit weird. It doesn't fully like flow very well, in my opinion. Also, who joins Gunnar and Avery's band is Zoe, and she's honestly kind of very rude to Scarlett about it. Just basically, like, you don't go for things, and, like, you don't take charge, and so that doesn't mean that, like, I should have to do that. And Julia's kind of regretting Layla opening, but she just didn't want to be an opener, And Raina is trying to work through the scar tissue issues that are affecting her ability to sing, and she like breaks down because it's super painful, I think both just emotionally and physically. And Jeff is just calling this her last album because she's like, I guess she can't sing anymore. And she's exhausted. She's just trying to buy her contract out from Edge Hill. But she needs about $20 million. And you know who has that money? Her daddy. But he's going to draw off the paperwork. But he doesn't realize that, Tandy has just turned over a lot of incriminating evidence. And she also made it a deal for immunity, so she had to used to basically stay silent, so Raina is none the wiser. So then Scarlett sees that Deacon is moving on, because she meets a pretty lady at the place. And Deacon is staying sober, but his guitar playing is still, doubtful. We don't know. And he doesn't join Juliet's request to join her on tour, and is very shocked to hear about the rumors that Raina can't sing. And so he of course goes to Raina about this, and Raina is like, I don't know what's gonna happen whenever I open my mouth. And they both promise each other that they'll never be quite done with music, which is true. I guess you don't have to sing and play guitar to be involved in music. There's other ways. Juliet, because she doesn't like Lena, is going to try to limit her time on the stage. That's the most Juliet move ever. She be what she be, and it's crazy to think about that, Hayden Panettiere was actually, struggling with drugs during this time. But it reads, I think, because we really believe all that is Juliet. And she wants a male act to balance out all the estrogen on her stage. And Gunnar and Avery are kind of going back and forth about Zoe, because she's the best friend of Scarlett, who they used to both date, and that's already complicated. And then Gunnar and Zoe kind of hook up after a jam session. Starts with a kiss, leads to the bedroom. You know how it is in Nashville. I said it was spicier this season. And so Will is trying to just please Jeff because he couldn't get Gunnar's song. And he gets a slot in Luke Wheeler's benefit tour, which honestly, probably a step up from Gunnar's song. I don't really like the way Will does music. It's kind of like Tim McGraw-y, which, I respect it, it's just not my cup of tea that I would listen to or any of that. It's, just not for me. And Jeff is so, mean to Will. I wonder if he senses, all of that. But, yeah. And Juliet is getting a little bit more worried because, Layla is getting a number one hit. Charles gets Juliet a car. Raina's father's being arrested. It's crazy town in Nashville. Raina gets a vocal coach, and he's pretty much a lot of this is anxiety for you. And Raina is talking to the manager, and she's like, I'm not dead, don't give up on me on my dreams, which I love. I like that she's standing up for herself, because in the beginning of the season, we kind of lose the confident Raina that we had in season 1, because I think the accident just really, really terrified her. So Luke getting a slot in Luke Wheeler's benefit tour is an unofficial audition for him to become part of Juliet Barnes. Brent believes in Will, and he already has conflicted feelings about Brent, but he's got an image to protect. Speaking of image, Scarlett is being trained on how to handle the press. Lena sees how nervous she is, and also sees how chummy she is with Will, who she is crushing on. Poor Layla. And Layla is like, you should be yourself, and that is kind of the opposite of what the publicist told her. And she gets blindsided by a question about Deacon, and Jeff kind of boots her out of the event. Will sees everything, and he knows that Layla kind of messed with Scarlett, which is not very nice of Layla, but I love her kind of mean girl and her, I don't know, I just really like this character. She made things interesting, and they cut her out too soon, you guys. They cut her out too soon. And Scarlett and Deacon just like sing together because that calms them down. Raina invites Juliet to be part of the Grand Old Opry, and Juliet is super overwhelmed and is so thankful. Luke Wheeler stops Raina, begs her to sing, and Raina is like, I can't, but the music starts, but she struggles, and everybody like helps her fill in the lapses during the song, and she is able to belt it out, and everybody goes wild, and she's back. And it's honestly, that's a really tender moment and one of my favorites of the season. It's just really beautiful. Like, I think as an artist, sometimes you forget that your fans are really on your side. And Will is trending because Lena posted an online photo of them together. Jeff is like, you should play up this relationship, even if it's not genuine. And he also tells Raina that, like, she's on her way out of Edgeville. And then Juliet overhears Luke Wheeler refer to her as a flash in the pan. Basically, he's just not impressed. And then she realizes that she has treated Avery really bad, and she's like, you should rejoin the tour. And Avery's like, nope, I'm working on my own music right now. And she's like, okay, well, you can use my studio anytime you want, which is kind of her. I'm glad she at least tried to make it right. And then Lamar is trying to get Teddy to let him be a corporate sponsor in the upcoming event, but Teddy's not going to do it. And he's like, I'm trying to clean up the likes of the men, like, not have people like you involved in politics. He gets arrested anyway, and Tandy visits him, and she's like worried that her father thinks that she's the one who turned him in, but he believes Teddy is behind this and wants to make him pay. So she dodged that bullet. So Deacon was gonna sell his cars, or his guitars rather. Selling his cars would be easier, and he'd be in a totally different place. But no. But he's recognized. He promises that he's gonna be around for Maddie, who is like super punky because she doesn't want to sing at the Peggy wedding, which, like, understandable, like, kind of broke up her parental thing. Like, I get having a lot of feelings about that. And so Deacon is singing with Avery. I hate that there's this, like, Bobby Santa Claus where the young girls have to sit into the lap to get airplay, which is just gross, but I think, unfortunately, still a really realistic aspect of the music business. So I hear from friends who are in it. So Maddie is kind of rebelling by, like, shooting guns on this guy's ranch for a distraction. A bit young to be doing that, right? Super dangerous. Maddie starts to be kind of like the rebellious teenager. She's gonna be that, I think, the entire rest of Nashville. So if you hate it, get used to it, I guess. So Deacon is freaking out because he, like, can't move, and Raina is kind of stressing because this, like, she's gonna have to kind of co-parent with a stranger with Peggy, basically. But people are like, hey, you know what, no one's gonna do it better than you. And they have a moment. She makes out with him, and then poor Scarlett is just put through the ringer because she had to talk about Deacon, and because he was arrested, and Raina's being quizzed, or rather Raina's father was arrested, so she's being quizzed, like, and this, like, poor girl is, like, trying to have a career, but she's so shy. She's, like, a shy singer. And unfortunately, too, Raina can't buy out the contract because her dad was arrested. Juliet gets caught by Raina having an affair kind of with Charlie because he was at this polo match that they're all at. This episode was kind of boring for me, to be honest, but anyway, she gets all mad at Raina's judgment and is like, okay, then Scarlett's not going on my tour, which, woof. Deacon appreciates that Emma the lawyer is not threatened by Raina. Me too. We should support girls, not try to sabotage, you know? So Raina's kind of feeling things with Luke Wheeler, kind of falling for him, and he's going to let Scarlett come on tour. And she gets 3 songs. And then Charles fires Bobby because he's like, if the slap thing is true, it's not good. And she agrees to do this concert for Teddy Old Juliet, and kind of collaborates with Charles, and they celebrate in a hotel room. And Gunnar and Zoe hook up again, and he even wrote a song for her. Oh, Gunnar, you little sap. I'm obsessed with Gunnar. I would absolutely date a Gunnar, you know? And then Scarlett and Avery hook up, which of course I don't like because I'm an Avery and Juliet shipper. I think that is correct, but they can't get together too early. There's still so many seasons left. And Raina is like, listen, Juliet, like, this industry is full of female fans and they're not going to like cheating. And she's like, she was trying to be kind, but she just should have never said anything to Juliet because they always have just like this weird, tense relationship. And Layla and Will even end up hooking up, but it's because his gay ex is now dating somebody and he's trying to make him jealous. Zoe wasn't into Gunnar because she was nervous about Scarlett, but since Scarlett, you know, is rekindling with Avery, who's like, he would do things so differently again with her, which I think he's right. He should have, you know, Scarlett didn't deserve that. But Zoe lets Gunnar know that, you know, she was wrong. She's all in. And Charlie's wife catches Juliet and them, which is not good for her image, you know. Juliet gets mad that Charlie was behind the Santa Claus, old Bobby, because he was called that because, you know, the girls had to sit in his lap. So terrible, but had to say it twice because there are people who are actually like this, and it's very important to remember that that is not okay and it should not be normalized. But Juliet gets mad because she doesn't want Charles to fight her battles for her. You know, she's so used to being independent and having that trust. And then she rehires him, which is also gross. And she's just like, listen, do not take advantage of any young girls ever again, or she's going to fire him. And she's also going to get twice as much airtime as Layla Grant, who doesn't want Juliet's protection. Because I think she's starting to sense that Juliet is just like kind of mean to her. And, you know, she's a reality TV star, probably used to it, doesn't really care, making it work for her. Like, slightly, I think, younger than Juliet, too, so kind of a different generation. And she wants in on the action with Charles and Juliet, and she kisses Juliet, who is not super into it, but doesn't also pull away. I'm interested in this, you know? I'm like, okay, it's kind of an interesting twist, and kind of one of the first of its time. So, Maddie has been getting close to Deacon because she thinks that her dad is basically leaving them. Obviously, he's going to flip out when she finds out that Peggy's pregnant, so that's why she's really trying to reconnect. And Teddy is, like, thinking about postponing the wedding, but Peggy is, like, plays the pregnancy card, and he really is, like, goes to Maddie and is like, please give Peggy a chance. Like, you're always going to be my first girl. And then Daphne is noticing how happy her dad looks at the wedding situation, and they both sing a song together for him, which is very sweet. And Luke makes Raina do guns. I think I accidentally said that was Juliet, so my bad. But so it was them, and they blow off some steam, and they hook up, and that helps her with, like, the wedding, because I think she's obviously a little devastated about Teddy still, you know, not what she wanted, but, of course, you know, that's why she left him, if he was like this. And she wonders if Deacon will ever, like, look at her the way that Teddy looks at Daphne, because Maddie doesn't have that experience of, like, a father looking at her like that, which I can very much relate to in a lot of ways. Luke and Raina were getting close because they were just really bonding over co-parenting with this like stranger. But Luke hands his keys over to his kid, who's kind of just like very untrustworthy in every sense of the way, just like the definition of a teenage boy nightmare. And meanwhile, Deacon is not very happy that Scarlett is back with Avery, and Avery's trying to like kind of play this up by coaching Deacon on how to perform without an instrument in his hand. Will beats up some bigots, and Deacon went to perform, but it's now like a comedy club instead of a like regular thing, but he still does really well. So I'm glad that I really like Deacon's redemption in this season. I think it's very even. It's not always like this in other seasons, just want to prepare. And so Jeff wants Gunner's song, and he wants it for Will, but Gunner wants a record deal. Really just any sort of break. And if Jeff can help him with that, he'll give him the song. And Jeff is like, okay, I'll hook you up with a mentor and a spot at the Music City Festival. And Gunner's like, yep, that sounds like a fair deal. A song for a tour. But it is the same tour that Scarlett is on. I'm sure you want to know all the juicy threesome tea. Kind of left you hanging there. But Juliet basically throws Olivia Charles' wife out because she's like, I don't like to share. And Olivia's like, I'm sharing you because Charlie is my husband. And Gunner is writing songs for Luke. And she's like, wow, that's such a big deal. And Gunner is like, no, Scarlett, what you're doing is like a way bigger deal. And Peggy is approved as kind of the first lady of Nashville, and he really wants to come to her checkup, but she doesn't think it's a good idea because obviously she lost the baby. But he's like, I really want to be there for both of you. And Tandy is like, hey, what is like Luke and Liam, like what are the notes? Because you've only packed lingerie on this tour with Scarlett. And Juliet tells Glenn to cancel her meetings because she's just going to go work on some new songs. And Scarlett is so happy to see Deacon on her tour, but she's called away to rehearsals. And unfortunately, right before Raina is able to go, the authorities show up with court papers, and she is having to surrender her master tapes to Edgehill. And if she doesn't comply, she'll be arrested. So she hands them over, and they're going to figure out how to do an injunction because she is just going to go yell at Jeff because this is, you know, just honestly so mean. That's like the scariest thing about working on music with people is that if you don't own it, like, it can get so bad. Like, they can help you, but then you don't own your very art, and that makes me very nervous, you know? But anyway, so Avery and Juliet are working out on songs together, and she's just ignoring Charlie, and she tells Avery the whole thing, and he even opens up what he went through with, like, Marilyn Rhodes, and he's like, you know what, you're no throwaway, and Charlie was, like, absolutely wrong to treat you the way that he did. And Jeff is treating Scarlett so badly. She's having sound problems. And so the audience aren't pleased. And they start booing at her and throwing beer cups. Like, oh my gosh. If I was in a crowd that was doing that to a young girl on stage, I would be absolutely livid. I think I would start punching people in the crowd, to be honest. And Raina makes sure she gets back on and yells at the crowd and is like, I like her. Luke Wheeler likes her. Like, you guys need to be civilized, which I really love Raina for doing that. But Scarlett looks so uncomfortable. And I really do, I think this is why season 2 is probably my favorite season of Nashville, because I do really like the storyline. I don't think it was mastered 100% perfectly, but I love the storyline of Scarlett being this talented, incredible artist, but not necessarily meant for fame, because I think it's so real and something we don't talk about, and how there are so many jobs in the industry or ways to do that you love that don't necessarily come with the wherewithal of fame, because that comes with, like, people being shitty and having opinions that hurt and all of that. And Scarlett gets through her song, but she is really sad and, like, opens up to Deacon where she's like, I feel like I let Raina down. And Raina gets into this fight with Jeff, who is like, you need to release your record immediately. And Deacon is like, hey, I don't even think Scarlett should be on tour. And then Raina's like, listen, if Scarlett wants this, she'll toughen up. And Juliet just basically is like, I don't want anything to do with you, Olivia and Charlie. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm not going to be this weird, like, polyamorous, accidental thing. And so Scarlett goes into Gunner and they write a song together, which is really nice. I'm glad. That's the hardest part of the season, is that I hate that they are not talking, because I really like them together. Even if it is just friends. I mean, I ship them, but it is what it is. Luke likes Gunner's song, but he doesn't want him to sing with them. And Peggy then kind of makes Teddy realize that she lost the baby, does some pork blood, and Luke makes a comment about Deacon's hand, and Raina joins him on stage to perform the song that Gunnar wrote, and then is like, I will release this as a single, and then you can release my masters. And Scarlett is like, hey, I'm not really supposed to be a singer, but I guess I'm gonna have to be. Like, I don't think I'm cut out for this, but I'm, like, now stuck in this situation. And Peggy is all like, I'm just worried you married me because I was pregnant, but he's like, that's not true. And Charlie then admits to Juliet that he is falling in love with her. I think Juliet has one of the weakest plot lines this season, which is unfortunate, but she gets some really good ones coming up. So just be patient, just hang in there. And yeah, I really, really like this season. I think that this episode starts to pick up and starts to get good. They were I think they thought the, like, battle between Jeff and Raina was more interesting than it is. Obviously, that's, like, part of it, but I feel like it was in, like, stasis, kind of, like, not really moving until this episode. It could have moved a little bit further. But we're here now, we're here, and that is all that matters. It's so hard to see Scarlett like this. I think it's, like, because it seems like it would be inevitable, especially, like, she seems so confident on stage, but that really is her personality. But yeah, I don't super care for the contract breach stuff. I don't really super care for Jeff. I think the actor does really well, but it is what it is. I think it's just that Jeff is so, like, cartoonishly evil, and I don't really understand his motivations, and I don't think that Nashville ever dives deep into, like, why he's so tough as a manager, like, why he is not, like, an artist for artists. Like, I know there are a lot of, like, kind of skadooshy managers, and usually it's because of, like, sex, but they just never really dive deep into Jeff at all, from my memory. Anyway, he basically is just, like, he only thinks that Scarlett's there is because of, like, Raina trying to cover. He's pretty, just, like I said, cartoonishly evil, like, tie him to the train tracks, but in the Nashville way. Just is pretty much like Raina is under contract breach, and so is Scarlett if she tries to just dip out, essentially. So she's in an even bigger pickle, that's the hardest part about all this industry, is, like, contracts make it super legal, and you have to perform sometimes whether you feel like it or not, and so much of performance is based on, your mood and your ability to get it done right. So Layla performs an encore, which pisses off Juliet, because I think she really thinks that Layla is, like, on her tails, and very true. Like, I think as a performer, Layla is more talented, but Juliet obviously has a personality, so she moves her set up, so there's no time for extra songs. And then she also learns that Charlie is divorcing his wife, Olivia, so it was very serious about being in love with her. And then Maddie wants to take guitar lessons with Deacon, and Deacon is like, I don't think this is a good idea, but everyone else is like, no, it's great. And Teddy doesn't really love that, but Peggy's like, hey, it's important to Maddie. And Teddy gets really angry when he sees her perform with Deacon, And then they literally fight, which is so dumb. And Raina calls them out for it, and Maddie runs. And then Peggy had no idea that Deacon was Maddie's biological father. And Maddie is like, she doesn't want to see either of them. But acting like fools like that, I would not want to do that either. Like, it's so, like, why would you do that? You, like, literally have a kid. Like, you cannot act like this. And then Teddy kicks him kind of out of the music festival. But that was, you know, to be expected. He's so, like, so bitter over Deacon. And it kind of makes sense because, obviously, we all know what's going to happen with Deacon and Raina. We all know. I'm not going to say it yet because it hasn't happened in the storyline. But, you know. You know what's gonna happen. So Will gets drunk and, like, falls off the bar, which super embarrasses Layla, which is a bit, like, weird. But I also understand that I would feel the same way if my boyfriend was acting like that. I'd be like, what are you doing? Because there is, like, a kind of drunk that it's like, why are you getting this drunk? Like, it is concerning. So he gets her flowers, and she's like, hey, let's just sing a duet together for the last song. And Layla is not happy with Juliet, who takes the duet from her and performs with Will. And Avery kind of opens up to Juliet and is like, listen, Charlie, I don't think he brings out the best in you, and I think you should tell him to, like, not go through with the divorce. So Juliet does. She's like, let's not do this, you know? And unfortunately, because Juliet is not a girl's girl, it came back to bite her, so always remember to be a girl's girl. But we'll get to that in a second. So Raina gets a call from Mar, who's in jail, and so she goes to see him. He is aiming for house arrest, and he wants her to be a character witness because he knows that Tandy is the tattletale. And Raina is like, yeah, my father's not a flight risk, but the house arrest is denied. And Scarlett starts to get jealous of the friendship between Gunnar, Zoe, and Avery because they all work together at the Bluebird. And Zoe, like, opens up to Gunnar and is like, Scarlett needs to know that, like, we're together. Scarlett's, like, my best friend. And then Zoe tries to talk to Scarlett. It doesn't really go well, and she kind of walks in on them kissing, so is kind of shocked and unhappy about that. And Raina is, like, trying to patch things up between Deacon and Teddy, but you know, Teddy's already removed him from the festival, and she wants to know what is going on with her sister, but she's remaining silent. And Layla is crashing at Will's house, but is super mad about Juliet. That's why you gotta be a girl's girl, like I said. And so she is gonna do some payback, so she phones a tabloid to say that Juliet is the cause of, like, Charlie and Olivia's breakups. That's why they split up, which is, like, dang, you know? Got him, you know? Really got him. So Juliet is the main act at Teddy's first annual Music City Festival, but the media is all mad about her relationship with Charlie. And so she tells her manager, she's like, can you find out who leaked the news? Jeff kind of assumes that it's Layla and is like, if you had anything to do with it, like, you're going to be dropped. And then Raina hears this rumor that Edgehill is going to release her record without her consent, and then she comes to Jeff and confronts him, and he's, like, skinny dipping with a woman. Classic Jeff, you know. And then Luke wants to be Raina's boyfriend, but Raina still doesn't know. And Gunnar is playing a set next to, like, porta potties, basically, and Deacon discovers that he's not even on the list at all. So they're going to play an unauthorized show outside the festival grounds, but Teddy shuts him down with the police because, obviously, like, they're in a little pissing contest. However, he does end up allowing the show to go to head.
Layla lies to Juliet that she didn't tell.
Raina is surprised that Luke is, like, in Jeff's pocket. That's what's kind of keeping her from him. And that he's just more of an artist that, like, just wants money and to make music. Like, Gunnar wrote a hit song with him and Scarlett. Like, that's just kind of all he wants. But she wants artistic autonomy. Tandy is like, let's just go into business together. Raina is even willing to get $20 million into debt to get her master tapes back. That's so much money. Oh my gosh. And then Will plays the steamy set, and he's kind of torn between Layla and the person he truly loves, the Edgeville assistant. And he ends up being in bed with the assistant, which I'm honestly really kind of proud of Will for, even though poor Layla. Sorry, I have the hiccups, guys. So Juliet's going to perform, but she gets rattled by the homewrecker signs in the crowd, but Avery comes and helps her out, and they finish the song together. And she just expresses her anger, and her and Avery bond again. And she just tells the press, she's like, I just want my private life to remain private. And Zoe attempts to apologize to Scarlett, but Scarlett's over it, won't even look at her. And Zoe and Gunnar break up almost, but then they're like, we're just going to give it another try. And Raina is having thoughts about Deacon, and Avery is having thoughts about Juliet. Even though Scarlett is like, I appreciate you, you're the only one who's being honest. Even though he's slightly not. And he wants to split up with her, but doesn't feel like he can because she's so upset about Zoe and Gunnar, and she's just becoming more of a mental health risk every day. And Juliet goes to Avery's room to confess that, like, she's in love with him, but sees that Scarlett is with him. So Will is really tormented about, like, slipping up and being gay, so he's going to end his own life by standing in front of an oncoming train. It's super, super sad. And then Teddy and Peggy are heading home together, but they're approached by a man with a gun, and a shot is heard, and Peggy is lying on the ground. And Will is getting in trouble for that fist fight he did earlier that he was fighting for just basically bigots. Juliet literally got called a skank at that show, which is just so uncalled for. Like, I don't know. Like, then just don't listen to that person's music. And Tandy promises Raina that she's gonna help her get the money because I think she feels really guilty about her dad and turning him in. And then Gunnar is kind of being, like, rough with Will. Even beats him up when he's feeling suicidal. Gunnar has some of the worst coping tactics, and they honestly feel very left field for his character because he's so sweet most of the time. So Peggy was killed. It was supposed to be Teddy. He was, I guess, a disgruntled, unemployed man that was trying to kill him. Gunnar and Scarlett meet with Kelly Clarkson, American legend, to discuss the possibility of writing a song for her, and they perform it. Scarlett ends up getting cold feet and bolts from the room because I think they just have amazing musical chemistry. And Zoe confesses to Gunnar that she loves him, and Scarlett and Avery split temporarily but amicably because she catches on that he has feelings for Juliet. And she's like, no, I know how you looked at Juliet. And she sees that it's the truth. And Scarlett is like, listen, we're not the same people we once were. So it is what it is. And then Juliet is still facing, like, all of these haters. And one guy makes a comment aimed at her mother. And she's like, listen, there's no God that will listen to a crackpot like you. But the footage ends up lying, and it's just been edited to look like that she's just, like, declared that there is no God, which in country music is a problem. So she asked Layla's help to back her at a press conference because Layla was also there. And Layla goes public with the truth, and she just knew she owed Juliet one. So Layla is a girl's girl, love her, and feel so bad for her. So Deacon is just struggling to come up with new material, and he takes it out on Megan, his girlfriend, and he's parked outside a liquor store. He doesn't go in, but he realizes that a lot of his past writing success has just come from this place of pain and unrest, all influenced by his drinking, which is just it's the same kind of energy of my business partner being I need to be depressed to write. It's not true, and it's such a toxic ideal to have. So Deacon's in that, and then he apologizes to Megan. And Raina, meanwhile, is under pressure to deliver a single. And Liam, her producer, is listen, just ignore the market research. Focus on being an artist. And then Maddie and Deacon write a song together. And Daphne joins in and they sing along, which is a very sweet moment. I love when the girls sing. They're so good. So Scarlett sings with the Zac Brown Band. They're just pulling out all the country star stops in the season. But she's just being so burnt out. She can't concentrate during a radio interview. She's trying to sleep whenever she can. And Raina comes to Deacon and is can you please help me write a hit? And they kind of get old times again. So everybody's dropping Juliet's tour because of the blasphemous comment. And Jeff tells Juliet, you better apologize or she'll be dropped. And Avery doesn't get a call from her, but she sees that Juliet is passed on her bed because she took a bunch of pills and is just super depressed. And he tries to take her busking, which is just where you play music on the street. He's trying to cheer her up. And it does work a little bit, and they write a song together. So Gunnar gets an invitation to write for Rascal Flatts, which causes a rift between him and Zoe for whatever reason. I guess she's not a Rascal Flatts fan, which I get it. I could never hear Life is a Highway again and be happy. So she confronts Gunnar at the Bluebird, and Scarlett doesn't really talk to him at all, and then breaks down in front of Raina. And Deacon is going to follow every command. And she's just worried about Raina kind of triggering him again. So they cool it. And Raina and Luke go official. And then Teddy realizes that the employee used to work for the Wyatt Industries. So he's I think Lamar tried to kill me, which, good luck, detective. That was very obvious to me. So while they're official, Luke doesn't really like a lot of cameras. Liam comes to work with Scarlett, but is just super unimpressed with everything about her. Ends up finding her diary and locks himself in a room and reads it while she's shouting at him, which is super, oh my God, not great. And Scarlett opens up that her mom has really been unstable for as long as she can remember and was in psychiatric hospitals. And Scarlett writes this song about her mother, and Liam gives her some drugs to help with her tiredness. It's so messed up. This is the beginning of the downfall if you can't see the writing on the wall, and I hate it. Thanks. So Deacon's label wants him to record an album of collaborations, and before Juliet takes the stage, he's hey, can you sing on the record with him? But she's no, I can't. People are going to burn any material that I sing on. Brad Paisley introduces her on stage. And then Juliet's you know what? My manager wanted me to formally apologize. I'm literally reading it off a teleprompter, but I'm going to do things my way. And she puts this song that she and Avery wrote called Don't Put Dirt on My Grave Just Yet, which I honestly love. Fucking banger. The audience, however, is not into it, but they clap. And Raina is listen, this wasn't smart, but damn, that was brave. And Jeff is all right, you're no longer part of Edge Hill, you're stupid. And Juliet's okay, good luck, because you've lost two of your biggest artists within 6 months of becoming the CEO. and Juliet makes him some pasta to thank Avery, and she reveals their true feelings about them, and they end up hooking up. And then Luke introduces Raina to a power player that could help her get the distribution deal off the ground, and surprises her with a NASCAR wrapped in like Raina Jane's graphics. Most southern thing I could think of to give somebody, but she realizes that the distribution deal means that Juliet will no longer have a place on the shelves, so she turns them down, and she's like, listen, I want Highway 65 to be a place where artists are free to be themselves. And then Layla is like, hey, Gunnar, will you help me write a song? But he just upsets her because he just kind of drops some stuff about Will, and so she goes to confront Will, and Gunnar is like, Will, you should tell Layla the truth. And instead they kind of hook up because they realize that they're not that different from each other in a way. So Raina thinks that Tandy is off at a spa in Napa. Sounds delightful, but reality, she's hiding away from the U.S. Attorney office in a motel, and the feds go into the motel room and arrest her for failing to testify at Lamar's hearing. I guess she was like scared, which is not good, you know, but I get it. That would be a really hard court case to go to. And Teddy turns on the TV, and it is revealed that Lamar is set to be released from prison. So, yikes, you know? It's not doing great. I think what I love, though, about the season is I really did like Scarlett's mommy issues, because I think this is like one of the first depictions of like, hey, not everybody has an amazing relationship with their mom, and it actually causes lasting damage. And it's like, and I think that like her anxiety is just really relatable of like not having a mom. Like it just feels very, very real, and the actress is just like very, very, very good at doing this. It's hard. I mean, Juliet is she always is like falling and getting in the bad public eye, like even though she's like a Hall of Fame. It's like very interesting and really mirrors Hayden, I guess, in her own career. I honestly think she's an iconic badass doing what she did. And that's that. I hate that a producer gives pills. Like, you should never take any drugs from a doctor unless they're from a doctor. Like, really want to emphasize that. Very, very important. But yeah, Tandy is really nervous because, you know, she thought that her dad was basically going to kill her because he went after Teddy, so that's why she didn't testify.
So Raina finishes shooting a music video and then is like, hey, Dad, welcome home from prison.
That is going to get her out of it,
things I can
don't
relate
stress
to.
too much.
Just kidding, I never got to welcome my dad home from prison, unfortunately. But so
Gunnar
she throws a welcome home party with the girls,
Scarlett feels bad,
but is confused really, that like Tandy is just giving him
about
like the cold shoulder, doesn't really understand all of that. And Teddy comes by and is like, hey, just so you know, Raina, your dad tried to kill Peggy, so you need to keep my children away from him. And Tandy is responsible for the prosecution. And so Raina goes to her sister and is like, what's going on? Is this real? And Tandy's like, yeah, it's true. I turned over private investigators' documents. So Raina is revealed that her father also was probably responsible for their mother's death. And then she asks her dad about it, and he's like, listen, I tried to stop her before her car crashed. And then Will's album is dropping the same day as Raina's, and Gunnar has written him a song, but he doesn't want to sing it. He's just like, he thinks that his assistant is providing too much of a distraction because obviously he's in love with him. And Jeff fires him because that's who Jeff is, of course. So Brent calls up Will and is like, what the heck, dude? I'm literally like your only ally, and now you just fired me. Like, I'm scared for you. And then Avery and Juliet have spent the night together, and so she's like hiding out in his apartment. Also, Brent, who is Will's lover, was kind of like, wow, I was the only ally you had at Edgeville, but okay. And then Deacon wants Avery to come record his live EP at Bluebird. And then Juliet also learns that the radio is dropping her, and she's like, whatever, I'm going to give your apartment a makeover, Avery. And he's like, okay, listen, you just need to face the consequences of what's happening and also put my place back to how it was before. And she watches Deacon perform, and so does Scarlett. And Zoe is noticing that she is really odd. And Deacon dedicates a song to Megan, and he approves of Avery and Juliet's pairing. And Lamar, now disowned by Raina, goes to Teddy's office to confront him. And Teddy is like, Tandy's not going to be a character witness at your hearing. And Lamar has another heart attack, and Teddy just stares there looking at him, which is wow. Another wow moment is Black Roses, which is not my favorite song, but I get that Scarlett poured a lot of love into it, and Raina also loves it. She gets a lot of phone calls from Teddy, but doesn't answer it because obviously they're divorced, and she still has a lot of feelings about that. But he comes and is like, listen, your dad died, and her kids are devastated. Maddie reaches out to Deacon, who goes to visit Raina, and she's like, I'm fine. And then Teddy holds a press conference to announce Laura's death, but reveals to Megan that he did nothing, obviously, to help him. But also kind of sounds like maybe Lamar had to die. I don't want to be the one to say it, but maybe we should say it. And then, of course, Liam makes a move on Scarlett. We saw that coming. And she refuses him. Good girl, Scarlett. And then Deacon asks Avery, Gunnar, and Zoe to be his backup at a gig, which is a big success. And then Zoe, Avery, and Gunnar are like, we're going to form a trio. And Scarlett feels really hurt because she sees Deacon praising them and spending the time at the studio. And then Liam finds her there, and she's like, yeah, I just stay there because all of my friends and ex-lovers and my uncle enjoy their own company, and now I have no one. And then because she's kind of weak and feeling, left out, Liam takes advantage and makes out with her. And then Avery played his version of Don't Put Dirt on My Grave Just Yet, which I liked, and then shows her a positive view from the New York Times, which catches the ear of Howie V, who's a hit-making producer, and he brings Juliet to LA to record it with a live orchestra and do a photo shoot with Rolling Magazine, which is super good for a career, right? Like a highlight if you're a musician. But Glenn is feeling sidelined and is like, I'm going to Nashville. And Juliet is kind of shook by that and is like, okay, I don't want to be, I want to be a country singer, and I don't want to do that without Glenn, because he's basically like a father to her. And then Raina breaks down finally, and Teddy is still dealing with that. He didn't do anything to help. Honestly, too, it's kind of crazy because I was like, was once his like father-in-law, which is a bit wild. But I loved what Glenn's monologue that he gives about going to the top, and he just delivered it very beautifully. He's really unsung in his performance. He's like one of the most consistent characters and great. And the orchestra was like amazing. And then Gunnar keeps like slowly undermining Zoe, and it's very lame. But they all end up working out with the Deacon gig. But I don't know. Gunnar is a problematic fave, obviously, as you know. The actor that plays him is just so charismatic and really reminds me of a childhood friend. So I think that's why I'm always like giving him a pass, even though there are times where he just makes goofy country boy mistakes. But having grown up from the South, it's very realistic. So I think that's also why I like him, because he's nostalgia, So Luke makes breakfast for Raina and is, checking on how she's coping. And she's like, I'm relieved. And he feels bad that he's not been there for her. Bucky shows up. And then he tells Raina that Scarlett's studio check bounced, and he's like, I think you need to fire the bookkeeper, who is her sister, Tandy. And then all these major pop labels are trying to sign Juliet, which overwhelms Avery. They go to this fancy restaurant, but he can't afford it. And they receive an expensive bottle of champagne from Jeff, who that just like pisses off Juliet. And he kind of counter offers that and is like, hey, here is a new deal with Edgehill, and Avery could be your writer. But she turns him down, and she's like, listen, I don't want to be a pop star, which I can't relate to, but she lets a $10,000 champagne. I didn't even know champagne cost that much, but she lets it explode in front of his face. And food waste, you know? Deacon wants Megan to come on the road with him, and she's very afraid that he's going to fall into bad habits, and he's like, no, it's going to be all behind me. Zoe, Avery, and Gunnar are still rehearsing, coming up with a band name. They book a spot at the Mercy Lounge, but Avery's like, listen, you need to consult before you do that. And then Raina checks with Tandy and is like, several checks have bounced, and she's like, yeah, the music video was over budget and a royalty check didn't arrive, and she's really sad about her father's death, but Raina's like, get it together. Very, very practical. That's how it works. Every time Sony's grieving, Sony's like, get it together. Instantly the grief's gone, and it's super easy to function in life. That was sarcasm if you couldn't tell. So Layla comes home from a house party and interrupts everyone because Will's song is on the radio, and he is the most requested artist. Everybody cheers, and they ask Will how he's going to celebrate, and he sleeps with Layla, and she's like, yeah, Jeff's not returning my calls, and then Will tries to boost her career, but he makes matters worse between him and Jeff phones Layla and is like, listen, you're fired, and Will is like, you know, it doesn't even matter, like, you're great, I believe in you. Which sucks. Layla's so talented too. Honestly, probably more talented than Scarlett, honestly, but it's all right. You know what I mean? It's okay. Just because Scarlett's about to F it all up, but we'll get to there. So Teddy discovers this medication that Peggy took for her miscarriage, and he was like, wow, I thought I knew Peggy, but I guess I was wrong. And then Deacon runs into Ruth Bennett, and they catch up over a drink, and she tells him that now she owns a bakery. She makes a move on him, and he's like, hey, I'm in a relationship. And he pulls Megan, but Megan, plot twist, and kind of maybe payback for Deacon making moves on Teddy's wife the entirety of their relationship. She is with Teddy, bum bum bum, like, kind of sad for Deacon, and obviously he's never mentally stable, so worry how this is going to affect him. But then also, everybody's getting caught, everybody's being sloppy, so Raina catches Scarlett and Liam together, and she's like, you need to end the relationship, and he's like, sorry, Scarlett, I'm leaving for Tokyo. If only it were that simple to just walk away from everything and go to Japan, you know? So Avery goes to the show, but Gunnar is annoyed and is like, not everybody has a rich girlfriend, which causes a fight to break out between them. Just being dumb. Like, honestly, I hate all the plot lines of Gunnar and Zoe. It's weak this year. I don't know. I can't remember if it ever gets better, but we will have to check it out in other videos. So Zoe puts a stop to it because they have a gig, and the gig goes well. I guess fighting tensions work out. And then Juliet wants Raina to sign her to Highway 65 because she wants to resurrect her career, and Raina agrees. Also, I love that she was trying to hide her and Avery's relationship, and it didn't even last one episode. And also her career that was supposedly over barely also lasted one episode. And Avery is getting kind of like lulled by the deal with Jeff, obviously because that, you know, would not insult his manhood of being poor and not being able to take care of his rich woman. And Juliet's been so self-sufficient for so long, I don't think she notices the undercurrent of things. So Zoe tries out for a backup singer, and if she gets it, she'll be on tour for 6 months. And Gunnar's like, Avery, we should give up on the band, but Avery's like, I don't know, because obviously he's thinking about the Jeff thing. And Teddy doesn't really love that Maddie is playing music because it's interfering with her schoolwork. And Deacon still doesn't know about their kind of affair. And Megan clears it up and she's like, listen, I'm with Deacon. And Juliet tells Raina that she wants to release Don't Put Dirt on My Grave just yet as a digital download. But Raina's like, I don't know about all that. I'm old. You know, I'm just kidding. She's not even that old. But Gunnar is tired of just being just a writer. And Juliet is feeling that she's like upstaged by Raina's other up-and-coming talent, like, because she's used to being just like this single star. And Will learns that Juliet is dropping him from her tour, which is a bruise to his ego. And he also discovers that Brent is now Layla's manager, which is making it harder to ignore all the feelings for him. So Luke wants to join Luke's tour, but Layla would not be included. So that poses some issues for them. And Luke invites Deacon to go on his tour, but Deacon is not very sure, and Raina is very not happy. But Megan's like, no, you should go, maybe to cheat on him, which is sad. And then Scarlett tells Raina that she wants Avery to produce her new album, which makes things kind of hard for Juliet and him. So Juliet sabotages Raina's event by taking the stage to announce that she's now on the label, and Raina gets really mad because she's like, you just ruined the chance of like salvaging your own career. And Scarlett is showing up but popping pills, which I hate and I feel so bad about. And then Raina is trying to mend bridges, and she's like, listen, we can sing a duet together. And then Maddie is angry at Teddy, and she wants to live with her real dad, but he grounds her. And she uploads a video of herself, and she calls herself Maddie Claiborne, which is Deacon's last name. And Layla doesn't really believe that Will is into her, but he ends up proposing to super avoid the feelings. It's going to go so well. And she obviously says yes, because she is a hag, and just absolutely a hag, and like not in like a looking like a hag, but just like, you know, hanging around the A's. I think that's what they call it. Sorry if that term is offensive, but not even hanging around the gays. It's like being in love with the gay man and not really realizing it. But anyway, I think everybody's had their moment, which is sad. That's why we need to not have literal rights taken away and abuse for somebody's sexuality, so that they don't have to tell elaborate lies, because it just hurts people. But anyway, Gunnar is feeling sad that he's the only one truly interested in the band, and poor Zoe is turned down from being a backup singer, which is not very fun for her. The, you know, part of an artist's life is so many no's. And so Will is getting like a 45-minute set, and he was going to break up with Lena, but didn't quite go that way. And he marries Lena too, just because he's afraid that other people are going to like come out of the woodwork talking about his sexuality. So he needs like the biggest cover. So then Deacon discovers that Teddy slept with Megan, and of course a fight breaks out, and then he punches a wall and breaks his guitar hand, and he packs up all his belongings and storms out of his own house, which is weird, when Megan is trying to explain what happened. And then he finds out that Teddy grounded Mandy, and she's like, she apologizes because she just wanted to spend more time with Deacon. And Raina plays like a mini set in Luke's tour, and they meet his son, Colt, who is this like social media star. So, especially at this time, literally maybe the worst. And I don't super buy that Jeff wouldn't love like the wedding, because it's like such, I don't know, you know, just PR stuff. And anyway, Gunnar does have a moment of like, he can't support that Will is denying his feelings and like going to marry somebody, so he moves out, which I am glad it is so hard to call accountability for, when your friends are making terrible choices, so I really appreciate him for doing that. And then, anyway, back to the old social media son. He is impressed with Maddie and Daphne's skills, and he uploads it, and then Luke and Raina get really mad, and it's kind of dumb, because I think they should just, it's them not wanting to be famous is just, it's a really weird thing. I think part of it is, maybe they're just selfish and don't want to, really patrol and watch her, because they're so involved still with their own careers, and I think, for a child to have a successful career and be safe, you do need a parent that watches them. But Dana should be rich enough that she could afford all of that. But anyway, Raina is, nervous and is listen, the internet is not a safe place. And Luke gets his son to take the video down. And Jeff kind of corners Gunnar about Will's sexuality. But Gunnar is, not going to say anything. And then Raina lets Scarlett know that, hey, you're going back out on tour, Juliet's tour, and then that doesn't really work out great because Juliet is super jealous of Avery's connection to Scarlett, and she takes it out on her while they're touring together, and Scarlett is just using her, drug problem to escape it, popping more pills, and then Juliet sees her and is like, wait, you're reminding me of my mom. And that kind of wakes Juliet up to not be a mean person. Meanwhile, Layla's parents won't speak to her if she's going to get married. I love that Luke's son thinks EDM and Skrillex is good, unironically. The song that they posted, rather, gave the bird away before the nest, is the Cup song, and they did very good, very sick beats. I think that's how I originally found them on YouTube, which I didn't realize was maybe promotion for this show. I also didn't realize that they have a famous country singer for their dad, because I just thought they were just famous off the internet, but no, they are Nepo babies, but very talented Nepo babies. And Scarlett was really mad, obviously, for the no reviews, and is yelling at Scarlett to make some noise, but Scarlett's I like to whisper. And I also just think they're super wrong about just the way that they are dealing with Maddie. I think that they should just let her be an artist, because clearly she wants to. Also, she's seeing it modeled, and I don't know if realistically they would feel this way, but obviously a lot of stuff happened to Raina. Also, meanwhile, Deacon is drinking again, and sees the Maddie's video of her singing as Maddie Claiborne, which goes viral, creating a media frenzy. It gets on, The View, which is wild. And so Juliet has a lot of empty seats on her tour, and Glenn is listen, you should maybe seek help from Charlie Wentworth, since he owns most of the radio stations. And Avery seems fine with the meeting, even though they have a history. And Charlie, of course, makes a move on her, and Juliet, turns him down. And Luke apologizes to Raina at the way he's been acting about the Deacon Maddie. He's Deacon is just a really sore spot, because he's had to fill in for Deacon at his gigs with Raina, because Deacon's been on a bender. And they were also mad when they're stuck on a Ferris wheel together, and all Raina is talking about is Deacon. Countrymen don't like when you talk about other boys, just letting you know. So they find Deacon at this lake house, and they find also the liquor, but he says that he didn't drink any. And he's I didn't run away because of the whole Maddie thing getting out. It's because of Megan. I'm not ready to face the press because it means I have to be in the same room as Teddy. So Raina goes to talk to Teddy, and he's yeah, I slept with Megan, and I'm jealous of Maddie's relation with Deacon, and I'm not going to lose Maddie to Deacon, even though it is a little bit weird because it's not technically his kid, but he did raise her, a really complicated relationship. And so Raina goes on Good Morning America to explain the Maddie situation with Teddy, And both are surprised when Deacon shows up, and Deacon says that he was never a suitable father, and Teddy did the best job possible raising Maddie, which was very big of him. And then Gunnar gets his first paycheck for $400,000, which is what? And then I wish I had that money. But anyway, so he rents out a record studio and gets Zoe to record a demo, which is super sweet. And so she's deciding to take to LA. And then Scarlett's mom, Beverly, shows up to surprise her daughter. And it's revealed that she also wanted to be a singer, but she got pregnant. And now she is really jealous of how successful Scarlett has become. And when she realizes that Deacon is Maddie's biological father, she gets really abusive towards Scarlett because it's like all of these other women singers around her are successful and she's not. And she gets also mad about like the Black Roses song that has like a lot of truths about her mom and what she was feeling. And so Luke gets confronted by the press asking if he's going to be daddy number 3. And he's just like, I'm going to the airport. And Raina goes to Deacon and she's like, why did you never tell me about Maddie being my daughter? And she's like, I wanted to be Teddy's wife and I wanted to raise this child in a loving environment. And when he had found out about the truth, taking the bottle and almost killing both of them, like none of this was ever what she wanted. And then Juliet tells Avery that Charlotte tried to kiss her. And then later is like, actually he did. And then he's like, yeah, I figured he was going to try, but I'm not angry at you, which is very sweet of her. And then Scarlett had this big fight with her mom. So she goes to Juliet being like, can I please have the night off? And Juliet, of course, refuses, which is awful. And so Scarlett gets super drunk and Avery talks to Charlie. And Scarlett takes the stage, but she doesn't get very far because she sees her mom in the audience. And then she just, like, has a mental breakdown on stage, like, screaming and crying and cowering under the piano. And Avery goes to comfort her. And Juliet now feels like a big asshat that she even let Scarlett go on stage because she was clearly mentally unwell. So Luke obviously left because he's just so mad that he didn't really know that Deacon was Maddie's real father and all the details for that. And then Avery really steps up to the rescue, and Juliet is like, okay, we're going to get the jet ready. We're going to fly Scarlett back home because we don't want the media to find out or show up. And then everybody's kind of waiting for all the 3 of them at the airport. And Raina is not blaming Juliet, although maybe she should a lot. Raina was like, yeah, in hindsight, probably wasn't the best to send out Scarlett on tour when they have, like, a history, and Juliet is known for being mean and bullying female talent. Don't worry, she gets a lot of penance for that in the Nashville saga. So anyway, they check on Scarlett, and they send her a clinic and to get everything out of her system. And Beverly tries to call out Raina on being a bad mother, and Raina honestly handles it with such grace and just gets out of there and realizes that, it's not her business. And I think knows that she did fail Scarlett and got wrapped up in other things that took away from developing the artist. But obviously, too, you have to have a balance of, like, the career. And I also think that Raina underestimated that, like, Scarlett was going to have it easy because she was so talented and has such a level head on her shoulders and such maturity, and didn't really see that there was going to be, like, a lot of other stuff brought out, and she wasn't really there to truly be a mentor. So Scarlett awakens strapped down to a gurney, and I feel so bad for her. And then Beverly is also the first person she sees, and so she freaks out again. And then Deacon holds Beverly back. Raina is calming Scarlett down and leads her back inside. And she admits that Liam gave her, like, these caffeine pills. And she's like, I don't belong in a psych ward. And she's like, listen, wandering outside into a field is not helping your case at this point in time, even though nature is super grounding and actually super good for your mental health. And Juliet tries to, like, bond with Scarlett over their crazy moms, but Scarlett is really mad, and she's like, it's your fault for letting me go on stage in the condition I was in. And Scarlett didn't even remember what happened, but she watches a YouTube video, and Zoe comes to like comfort her as well. And Gunnar goes and buys a house because he's like, I'm sure Scarlett doesn't want to see me. And he plays around with Jeff. And Jeff is like, you should join Edgell as a songwriter. But he almost had him, but then called Scarlett crazy. And then Gunnar's like, actually, fuck you. No, I'm not going to join your company because you suck as a person. And so Beverly and Deacon are arguing about their family and that the fact that Scarlett's father dumped both of them. And now Scarlett is kind of doing the same to them. And Deacon forgives his sister, and is like, you know what, the past is the past. Like, we have to focus and get our stuff together for Scarlett's sake. Because they're having just like a big fight about, how psychotic breaks obviously run in the family. Like, they clearly have mental health issues, and I just feel really bad for her. Like, I've been in a similar situation, obviously not with press down my back. Like, that would, I think, make it 100% worse. I was like a nobody when I was in a psych ward. But it's such a hard place to be in, and like everybody fights around you, and you're meanwhile fighting internally, and it's just really one of the most difficult like places to be in and try to heal. And they don't even go into the system in this TV show, but it's a whole thing. So Layla shows up with a reality TV producer, and they're going to do a reality TV show together, her and Will. And then Avery comes to visit Scarlett and is like, listen, you can talk to me anytime. Like, we were very close once, and like, we're still friends, and we'll always care about each other. And Juliet listens, which she's probably going to take this all the wrong way. And then Scarlett is allowed to go home, and Scarlett realizes that, she doesn't want this. And Raina's like, that's fine. Let's release you from your contract. And Juliet is upset about Avery and Scarlett's conversation, and so she fucks Jeff. Yes, Jeff, the manager. Juliet, why you do this? And Gunnar catches them together. So Deacon really blames Raina for Scarlett's meltdown, which I do think she is a little bit at fault. I also think like she's at fault dealing with the fallout of the messes that he couldn't clean up in his past, and like what he created with her when she lost her voice and them getting into a car wreck. So he's also at fault, and also was not around for Scarlett or paying like a positive role model. So it was a collective thing. And obviously like Scarlett was doing stuff for her own, but I do really feel like a lot of it was not her fault. Like, she was absolutely overwhelmed and just had no guidance. And Juliet obviously could have been nicer, and she was honestly being like, she did come around, and she was like, like, you should go back out. Like, you have so much talent. Like, don't squander it. But, Scarlett was just like, that would mess up my trust touring with anybody when somebody's like forcing you to be out there when you're clearly like not doing okay. And like, Juliet, of anybody, should know, right? Like, she should know. And I know she's basically like compartmentalized and like made sure that when she's feeling trauma, she like puts it all into performing, and doesn't always like not want to perform. Like, she's found to like put it there and perform without it. But she's also had like way more practice than Scarlett at this time. And Raina's been trying to like spin it and be like, everything was overwhelming. And just pretends that everything is all right, even though like it clearly wasn't. And it was also overwhelming because she had like no mentor out there. Like, Raina was off like, dealing with so many other stuff and not her actual like workspace. And then Will and Lena are doing that reality show because they want to sell more records. And Gunnar's song, It Ain't Yours to Throw Away, makes me cry. It's such a good song. I still have it on my playlist to this day. Like, just go listen to it. It's basically about like, I'm gonna cry even saying this lyric of like, what if you're just a vessel and God gave you something special to like say, and it's just so powerful. And I also think that it is really, really powerful. What I really do like about this season is that Scarlett chooses not to have this fame. I think it's a concept that we don't always talk about a lot, and it's something that I've often been considering, particularly in this year as well, of like, like maybe you don't want to be a star. Like, maybe some people don't have what it takes, and I don't think that means less on somebody. It's like figuring out like your career path, and like how do you really know until you experience it if it's for you. And I also think if Scarlett is meant to be a star, it's supposed to be in like a bandmate situation, because that is where she functions the best within a group. So Juliet is scrubbing herself clean after Jeff. I can't also believe that even he did that, but he probably wants the leverage, and he's so evil. It's like cartoonishly so. But anyway, so she's showing all that off. And then Avery is like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't think about how you would be with the whole Scarlet stuff, which is just like extra burning to Juliet. But she always, like, when she has love, panics and messes it up, which is such a sign of like having parents like that. Like, she doesn't understand it and is like hurts herself, honestly, when she is, has love in her life. Like, and it is a common thing that a lot of people, deal with. And so Raina meets with all these broadcasters, and Bucky informs her that Luke is in Afghanistan and was unfortunately injured when the convoy he was in was hit by an IED. And Raina flies to New York. Gosh, she's just been like dealing with everything this whole year too. Like, so many things are happening. And so she can be there for him. And then Luke is beating himself up that he wasn't able to give the troops a show because of the accident. And Raina's like, well, let's do a show live from Fort Campbell, and we can cast it to all of the troops. And so the reality show starts with Will and Lena, and Gunnar is like, I'm not being a part of. And he gets a call to meet with Juliet because she wants him to write some songs for her album, but he doesn't know what to do because he saw Jeff and her together, and obviously like is close with Avery, not like super close, but knows him enough. And so he meets with her, but it's not long before Jeff is like being like, hey Juliet, like come back on the label or I'm gonna say everything. So Scarlett is trying to get back on her feet. She takes a waitressing job at the Bluebird, but then she gets some unkind comments from customers, and she's deciding that she's gonna leave Nashville for Mississippi. Deacon and Maddie spend some time together, with burnt lasagna and homework, and she asks like where he was the night she was born, and he was like, I was out on the road. But at an AA meeting, he admits the truth that when he found out Raina was having another man's baby, he got super drunk, and that's pretty much all he remembers, which is like not a great story to tell her. But I think that he should have been maybe honest about his addiction. But I get that it's hard, especially with like a child. And then Luke hears that Juliet will be performing at the show. He's not very happy. And Juliet hears him say this to Raina, and she's like, I'm not gonna sing, but I will meet the troops. And Luke then overhears her saying to a soldier that she's there because her father was a Black Hawk pilot who died when she was 4. And Luke then is like, you know what, you should sing with us. Like, I didn't realize you have a connection. So yeah, maybe don't be judgy, dude. And so the show starts because First Lady Michelle Obama is saying the troops be a satellite, and Kelly Pickler also performs. Big show, honestly. Big gets at the time. Michelle Obama, I think, is still a big get. Deacon asked Teddy to tell him what Maddie's birth is like, and Raina and Deacon joined Maddie and Daphne on stage to perform, and he apologized to Raina for his behavior, and he says that, I know you've just been trying to protect Maddie this whole time, and I'm starting to finally realize, like, the gravity of my problem, because Deacon is still in recovery. And so Zoe has an opportunity to sing for Juliet, and Gunnar has a chance to tell Avery about his girlfriend's rendezvous with Jeff, but because Zoe is like auditioning, he's like, okay, it's not the time, like I don't want to mess this up for her. And then Jeff is like, yeah, I'm not above telling Avery about our encounter. And Juliet is just like, great, you can tell him how unsatisfying it was, which, great zinger. Also, probably easier if Jeff tells, because Juliet can maybe spin it, but it's still, I mean, she messed up bad. It's not looking great. So Will is getting tired of having to kiss Layla several times because he is gay and he doesn't want to deal with it. And he hits the gym to cool off, and then he sees a male trainer who he gets his card, and he crumbles it up, but then later unplugs the camera in his house and like phones the trainer to have a private session, which is just code for butt sex. And then after the show for the troupe, Luke tells Raina that his near-death experience had him really worried that she wasn't reciprocating his feelings, and Raina's like, no, I love you, like, I'm here. So Raina is about to go on Good Morning America in New York to inform the public that, you know, she's releasing an album, but Will is also releasing an album the same day as her, thanks to Jeff, and she really needs her album to be successful as well as their label. So Teddy is able to book in LP Field for her to do a show. And then Maddie gives both Deacon and Raina a framed photo of their performances to the troops, which is very sweet. And Deacon gives Maddie a guitar. And Raina is like, okay, how do I screw Jeff over? And Deacon is like, here's what you do. And Juliet comes to Raina asking out of her contract because she's like, it was a mistake signing with her. And Raina's like, no. And you will be performing a show at the LP Field as well. Because she is obviously trying to get out of Raina's contract because Jeff wants her over at him. And I'm glad Raina put her foot down. Like, I think Juliet has to deal with her mistakes. And Maddie wants Raina to sign her. And Deacon puts on a show for the Sober House. Juliet is just being bombarded with voicemails from Jeff. Juliet just gets drunk, and then she shows up to the Sober House show, almost ironically, but Deacon prevents her from going on stage and is like, you need to go home, like, this is just disrespectful. Raina follows her home and holds her hair back as she vomits, and they're like, okay, let's kind of strategize, how do we tell Avery about our one-night stand? And Raina is like, you need to tell him before Jeff does. And so she performs at Raina's album launch, but after she was removed from the Sober House show, Zoe Gunner are the ones to tell Avery about Jeff and Juliet because Avery senses that something is going on with them. And then Avery goes to break up with her and she's like, please don't. So Raina's being really stressed, and so is Will, because it's gone very horrible, thanks to Raina. So he's just like, you know what, I've got to come clean with Lena. Like, obviously, like, there's something karmatically not working, that if the day that should be happy, like, everything's messed up. So he goes into the bedroom where he thinks there's no cameras, and he admits that he's gay, which Layla is just, like, speechless. And then we see that there is a red light flashing on the clock on the wall, which is like, they've been recording in their bedroom without their consent. But now that has been recorded. And so Scarlett is going to leave Nashville and calls to see Avery, but finds him drunk. And she's like, listen, I think deep down Juliet is a good person, like, and is clearly working out stuff. Like, we all know Scarlett knows more than anybody, like, about working out stuff. And so that was very kind of her. Such a good person, old Scarlett. Somebody really, what a great role model for children and people everywhere. Anyway, so then Raina's album launch party, Jeff comes, and Raina and Juliet tell exactly what they think of him and his label. And Juliet is like, you know what, thank you for the worst minute and a half of my life. And then Raina and Juliet perform together. Luke takes the stage to sing with his girlfriend. And when the song finishes, he asks Raina to marry him. And she accepts. And Maddie and Deacon are in shock because Deacon thinks that Raina is supposed to be with him. And obviously Maddie wants to experience life under both of her parents. And so Scarlett says goodbye to Gunnar before leaving town. But he's like, don't do it. And then Deacon goes to see Raina and is like, it needs to be us. And I know how to love you now. And then he gives her a ring and kisses her before leaving. But I don't know. It's so hot. I mean, I'm shipping her and Deacon over her and Luke. But yeah, it's been a long road with that one. It's been a long road. But yeah, so that was Nashville season 2. Lots of wild stuff. I love Scarlett's plotline. Sorry that these reviews have just been still very messy and not as polished as I'd like them to be. Obviously, I'm doing the whole production from like top to bottom myself, and it's hard to balance that and all the jobs that I have, as well as running my own production company, doing other people's stuff. getting my documentary trying to be sold. Like, it's been a lot. I'm also going through so many health problems, but if you made it this far, you got me to condense 20 like 4-hour episodes, like a whole day of TV into 2 hours. I appreciate you. I would love it so much if you could follow me on social media, subscribe here, and if you've got money for merch, please purchase some. Could really use that because I would really love to grow this channel even more. But either way, I appreciate you. Please let me know what you thought of the season, what you think of Nashville, and would love to stay in touch. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.